So we all read the article. The keys to happiness, partly genetic, but you control the rest, right?
Yes. What did you think, Fardeen?
I thought it was pretty interesting, especially how it talks about 50% of your happiness is controlled by your genetics, and only 10% is influenced by the like stuff you have, like your wealth or how you're raised and things.
Yeah, and 40% of it is is what you do, or like there's like the scale of happiness that you can move either up or down on, and that raised me a question of like, is there a scale for sadness too, or is that just like a part of the happiness scale or something like that? And
Yeah, I did a little research on that, and it said that sadness is not really an emotion, rather it's a lack of happiness.
The thing I found most interesting about this scale is that the article said that if we want to continue moving up this scale, we have to keep our lives interesting, and that helps keep us satisfied with what we have.
yeah, but keeping satisfied is kind of like, how do I put this? It's perspective, because people can have a lot of things, but they cannot be satisfied, like greed, basically, you know. But yeah, this is just based on like a person's point of view of how they view satisfaction, basically. So, what do you think about that?
Um, I think that point was kind of important in the article. Like, so there's like two keys to happiness that it mentions, which is keeping life interesting and being satisfied with what you have. And I think being like satisfied is really important because like I've read a lot of a few things about happiness, and satisfied and being grateful and happy for the things you have was like a consistent factor amongst all of them.
Yeah, and like for example, being satisfied with like yourself is kind of hard for some people because they lack, self-esteem and stuff like that, and they want to compare themselves to others. And
Yeah, and just like as you found on your, and as you've listed down in your notes, Ariel, how does one keep their life interesting? Like, what do you have to do in order to keep that spice salted up, baby?
well, I think that's really objective to the person themselves, because everyone has different hobbies and they do different things. Like I like playing video games. Well, we all like playing video games, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but some of us might enjoy other things like
Fishing?
fishing. I don't enjoy fishing. I find it boring, personally.
I don't go fishing.
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying that because that came to mind.
Well, yeah. So like, let's say someone enjoyed fishing, but I don't. So maybe fishing keeps them satisfied or happy, or it's interesting to them, but it wouldn't be interesting to me.
True.
So you're just saying that it all is based on what you like and what you dislike.
Yeah, basically.
But I think like trying out things that you may not even like and just trying them out will keep you like happy and interested in life.
Yeah.
If you keep doing the same thing over and over, you're gonna be bored and start getting depressed.
Oh yeah, it talked about that in the article. It talked about variety is simple lifestyle changes can make us happier, which plays into variety. It said like introduce new experiences into your life, and you should base it off of something you already enjoy. So it's still enjoyable, but it's something new and fresh, fresh and cool.
What do you think about the part that talked about traumatic experiences, like how that can change us, but then how it can also diminish over time?
Yeah,
Either one
it
of
was
you.
talking about how like the research suggests it's harder to forget the bad than remember the good, and I kind of agree with that. Like whenever I have a bad thing, right, like some sort of bad memory, like getting into a fight with a kid in 6th grade or something, that kind of lasts longer than like the good memories, because I guess it's just a part of our human mind.
Yeah. I wonder why like it is easier to remember bad things over things that make us happy, because obviously we should try to remember the positives, but people tend to remember the negatives, and I've always wondered why.
I think the reason for that is like because of evolution. So like happiness is like you're content with what you have. You want to stay where you are. But when like something bad happens, right? That means you need to like change. Like maybe like back a long time ago when you had to like run away from animals and stuff. Like a tiger would kill your dad or something, and then you'd be like, oh, next time I should be scared of tigers.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as Fardeen said, I believe that we remember bad memories more just because of how it's like a survival instinct. We tend to think of what happened in the past, so that we can better ourselves for the future and prepare ourselves for what comes next in case we encounter that same situation again. Like, say, you have this girl you like, and then you mess things up with her. But then next time after that, you'll be like, maybe I won't email her like how I feel.
Is that an experience you can relate to, Victor?
Ooh, shut up,
Wow.
Fardeen. We're breaking.
That's unfortunate. So I was reading the article and basically said that happiness happens in little surges in like periods of time. So we can either be long term or short term, and which depends on the person and also depends on what's making them happy. So I was thinking, is it like, they go back to the normal state that they were when they after being happy. I was thinking, if is it possible for someone to go under the normal state after being happy? Like, are they gonna be like sad after being happy or something like that?
I think that's entirely possible. Like, one can just experience this surge of happiness, but then something else happens, or they just remember something, and then all of a sudden they're sad again.
And also, it doesn't really talk about, like, I believe there's different types of happiness, right? So there's a type of happiness that satisfies like your conscious mind, and then there's like the more like physical desires, like when you eat ice cream or something, right? You may feel happy then, but then you're like, oh, I ate so much and I'm gonna get fat or something, right?
Yeah,
And then
probably
like
going
just
to
go
like,
down.
my diabetes is gonna come attack me in my
Yeah, like
sleep.
consequences. You think about the consequences. Maybe that's why some people feel happy for a short amount of time, because they it's like regret. But yeah, as you said, they eat ice cream, but then they think about what the bad thing that's gonna happen. They're gonna get fat. They're gonna look bad. People, yeah.
They'll probably look like a hog to their friends for eating an entire tub of ice cream.
Hey, some people do that.
Those are sad. But what did you think about the concept of hedonic treadmill?
Hedonic treadmill is the theory that suggests that good things move people up the happiness scale, but as happiness dims, people return back to their normal degree of happiness based on their genetics.
Yeah, that's the hedonic treadmill. What do you think about it? Like, the entire concept of it. Is it helpful to understanding this or not? Either one of you can answer this.
Well, I think, like, I'm still kind of questioning about the genetic part of it, where like, is it like people have different degrees of happiness, based on like their normal degrees of happiness, like where they go back after experiencing surge of happiness. I really don't know how to answer this because I still need more information about the genetics behind it, because they kind of just generalize it at the end of the.
True. I did a little bit of research on it, and it says like the part of your brain where happiness emerges from, if you have more gray matter in that part of the brain, then I think you feel happier. But if you don't, then you have less. So like, that's like a genetic thing.
Oh, gray matter in the brain is genetic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It can also be like, I think I heard like traumatic experiences can reduce the amount of gray matter you have in your brain.
How do you think you could better avoid depression or get yourself back up this scale, this happiness scale? Like, if you're back down and you're sad, what do you think you could do to push yourself back up? Like, do you have any experience with this, or elaborate?
Personally, when I'm sad, I just kind of just sit around and think about why I'm sad and what it does to me. But I think that we should experience that. We shouldn't try to avoid being sad or being depressed, because it helps us learn, like, helps us gain better empathetic skills with each other, because we know what people are going through, or, yeah.
What about you, Fardeen? You seem to have been shying from this entire connected to your own life thing.
Oh yeah. Well, like, if I'm sad, then, there's different ways to handle sadness. Like, there's like a way where you just kind of get lazy and unhappy and just sit around, play video games.
But
it doesn't feel good. It kind of feels bad. But like, I guess if you just look back on it and try to take something away from it, then later when you look back and like on that sad event, then you're like, wow, I've actually learned something from it.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people say that like instead of just moping around, you should look back at what you've done and see if you can take anything out of it. Like I don't know, maybe not like constantly, or like as Victor said, email someone your feelings. That would not be good. 'Cause you take back from that okay, obviously it doesn't work. It's not good, and he learned something from that. Well, not him particularly, but whoever that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also a student, say in like a school setting, a student does something bad, like say steals something, and then they get suspended for it.
Oh,
Um,
I see.
what happens when their parents are like, "How could you do this? I'm disappointed in you." They'll be sad for the moment, but then they'll look back on it and be like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I'll try better next time, you know?
Yeah.
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 So talking about like the genetic parts, I know like it said overall 50% is genetics, and 40% is within our control. So what do you think they mean by like within our control of being happy?
I believe that they mean from that is like we can through memories and like choosing what we like to do and what we don't like to do, that's how we can choose to either be happy or not be happy. It's not a case of like I'm going to be happy today, so I'm gonna put on a smile, but it's rather I'm going to do what I like to do because that makes me happy. I'm going to cook a cake because it makes me happy and everyone forgot my birthday.
Or like eating healthy and exercising or helping someone out, that makes you happy too.
Yeah.
Reduces stress.
Yeah, there's different ways of making yourself happy. It's not just a case of I'm going to make myself happy today and trying to keep yourself happy, but you have to actually do what you want to.
So basically, our behavior and our thinking affect our happiness and like what we do, our actions.
Basically. Do you have any questions, Fardeen?
Well, no. Just want to know how it like applied to you guys overall.
Well, as I was reading it, I noticed a lot. I noticed the things that played into happiness. I knew that interesting events and satisfaction can play into happiness, and yes, I knew that because it is depicted in stories, movies, shows that poor families, even though they don't have like, they don't have like the essentials, they make do with what they have, and that's satisfaction, and that brings them happiness. And what I brought out from this is go back and analyze what happiness or what brings me happiness overall, or like mainly, and I think it's like events. Like I like going to school dances, or like Las Vegas Dance Marathon was a really good event for me because it was social and I was able to talk with other people. But I struggle with the satisfaction part of it because I degrade myself a lot when I look at others, and this is a weak point for me. Then it helped me notice that the article helped me notice that. So yeah, and I've also noticed that my happiness levels have been like the levels. I didn't know about that. There's a happiness level, and then I noticed that mine's been spiking up and down over the past couple of years. And I need to do a bit more research, but this helped me open a new door to that.
Yeah, I noticed that you're saying now that before realizing about this happiness scale, it seemed just kind of like you didn't know you were happy here, but then all of a sudden it doesn't feel so right here. But then after that, you found this happiness scale, it's somehow easier to see whether you're happy or not.
Yeah.
You're able to map it out.
Yeah. Because before, like, happiness is just some sort of abstract concept, right? You can't really, you understand it, but you just can't get a grasp on it. But now, like, you know, like, how much of it's your genetics and how much you can influence, kind of like, it's easier to understand what you can do.
So it seems like this scale is much more helpful than it first comes out to be.
Learning about that scale can help someone learn more about their happiness.
If say someone is like stress eats and that makes them unhappy because they realize that at some point they may get fat or just say like cholesterol problems or anything. A simple life change to that, like eating healthier, eating more vegetables. Do you think that would make them happier? And if so, how much?
Simple lifestyle changes like maybe exercise and eating healthier can affect someone because they eat a bunch of junk and they put it into their body. They feel like junk because they know the effects of what the food's doing to them. But if they start eating healthy and they'll start feeling better about themselves because they know that they're starting to change for the better. And I feel that it'll affect their happiness a decent amount, but like not it's not just gonna spike. It's not gonna surge like immediately. It'll just they'll probably have a higher level of like their normal happiness level.
Yeah.
So they'll feel better about themselves. But wouldn't it be hard to like get yourself out of that hole? Like you've been eating junk food like every day after school, but then you say you wanna eat, say like celery sticks or a pack of baby carrots after school. Wouldn't that be hard to change from because you're used to eating what you think is good for you, but then the actual healthy stuff you just leave out. Like you may eat it one day after school, but then you might not like it and revert to what tastes good for you. So don't you think it would be hard to get yourself out of that habit?
Well, I mean, yeah, it would be hard. I mean, making lifestyle changes is always hard because you're used to habits. But I think that's part of like the reward for it, like actually being able to change yourself, and then you like look back on it like, wow, I actually did something. But like it's hard, yeah. But you just focus on the goal and try to make like small goals, break it up into small goals. You can't eat like baby carrots every day. Maybe eat it like twice a week, and then go up from there.
Yeah. You shouldn't like try to force yourself to do something because that will make you unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Like you can't just go like full withdrawal. Like just let's say someone like likes drinking a lot of soda, right? But obviously that's not good for you. You can't just stop drinking soda because you can't go cold turkey because that affects you mentally and it'll probably make you really unhappy and like really you'll be like it won't be fun hanging around you at that time. But yeah, like as Fardeen said, you should like maybe like drink soda like twice a week or something like that, 3 times a week, and then like you can keep lowering it until you just stop drinking it overall.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that you could like, if you have had a good memory or something good has just happened, say something good happens like it's your birthday and your friends actually came to your birthday for once in your life. How can you keep that memory alive and like reflect back on it for future experiences?
Well, I think like you can do like a physical aspect to it. You could take pictures, take videos, have like memory or like physical memories of it, not just your mental memory. Because if that's like something that happens like not often, like your friends actually go to your birthday. If that's something that doesn't happen to you often, then it'll be a better memory because it stands out from your mundane life, I guess.
Yeah. Having physical evidence of something like fun is a nice way to keep that memory alive for longer.
Yeah, like for example, last homecoming, like last year, they gave us a little ticket that was a reminder, and also for Las Vegas Dance Marathon, they gave us a shirt, which gives me a reminder of, yeah, I went to this event, it was really fun, it connects the memories together.
Yeah.
I didn't get one of those tickets last year, now I'm salty.
I'm sorry, Victor. Wait, no, it might have been for prom, I don't know.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
So, wait, I have a question. Do you think, so there's a philosopher, his name was John Mill, and he distinguished between different types of pleasure. So he says like the pleasure you take from reading something like Shakespeare is different than reading something like 50 Shades of Grey, if you read that stuff.
If you're into that.
Yeah, so
You're into
basically
that
he's
aspect
saying
of
that
life.
there's different levels of pleasure, that there's higher levels of pleasure and there's low levels of pleasure. Do you agree with that?
That there's different levels of pleasure?
Like of like happiness, yeah. You know,
I would agree with that. Like, there are certain things that do bring people more pleasure. Like, say someone is like insanely greedy and they like money and all that. They're a Mr. Krabs of the SpongeBob universe. They prefer money over family. They prioritize their company over his grandma who's in the hospital bed.
So you're saying the money brings them more happiness
Yeah.
than their family? Oh, okay.
Yeah, to like certain people, like um, something like that. This abstract concept of money gives them more pleasure than, say, the average peasant.
Yeah, because, I mean, yes, money will bring happiness to a person who doesn't have a lot, but it all depends on the person. Like, they probably value their family, their ethics, their work, their friends. They probably value that more than money because they build a relationship with those people. And yes, it's like happiness can come from a relationship, whether it be a friendship, a romantic relationship, or stuff like that. And I think that I believe that having a healthy relationship with someone is like one of the best ways to have happiness, but that's just my personal belief.
So this is basically going back to that these different levels of pleasure depend on who you are as a person and what you like and what you don't like. Does that answer your question, Fardeen?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. Because like I was talking more of like how there's different pleasures. Like so, there's pleasures that satisfy you like intellectually.
Oh.
You read something, you learn something, you're like, you feel better after that. But then there's like physical pleasures.
Oh.
Like
junk food.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jump rope.
Because like usually when you do like physical pleasures, there's always like a feeling of guilt or regret, or there's always something like comes back, or like it's like a physical pleasure is like a sudden spike, but then it comes back down, it crashes hard. But if you do something like intellectually speaking, then it kind of it's like a slow rise and a slow fall. I think that's what makes it better.
Yeah.
Not really sure how to answer that.
So what you're saying is like, basically,
Physical pleasures they happen right then and there, but then just a few minutes or hours after that they're gone. But then intellectual pleasures like reading or solving a hard math equation,
I mean, it
they
doesn't
stay
really matter.
there.
Just like I guess, because if you like appreciate something that's even intellectually, you're thinking about it. Like when you put your mind into something, it just makes it a better thing overall.
mm,
So any other comments from you two?
so, I want to go back to like, I was thinking about sadness, like I wrote it down and it was like, does sadness have its own scale too? Is it kind of like happiness where it can go up and down? Like you can be like incredibly sad or like depressed, or you can be normal. You think there's a scale for how people range happiness or sadness?
There might be one out there. If there's a scale for happiness, there should be a scale for sadness to negate that, I guess.
But like, I think it's just like there's no real set point for sadness unless you have depression. But like otherwise, if you're like normal, then your sadness can like I think range quite
Yeah, it's
extremely.
like, say you're losing a family member, you'll probably be grieving for the next 3 to 5 weeks, depending on how close they were to you. Whereas, like, say you just lost a goldfish,
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe you'll be sad for one day because you've been feeding that goldfish every day after school for like the past few months.
But then you'll forget about it.
Yeah, it'll be just like, it's just a fish.
So-
I eat fish for dinner. I eat salmon.
Yeah.
So basically, you're saying it depends on like what happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends on like whatever happens to you or whatever brings that sadness. Say like you're failing grades and your parents are scolding you for it. You'll probably be deeper down on this said scale. But if you're just like your teacher calls you out for not paying attention because you were writing a story in class, it'll probably be just closer to normal sadness, but you'll still be a little sad.
Mm. So, I want to see what you guys got out of reading this. Like, how does it apply to your own life? As we were discussing earlier, but we kind of went off of that for a bit. So, how did the keys to happiness affect you guys?
I think it makes it easier for me to look at certain experiences that are happening and like at myself and what makes me happy and what makes me do the things I do, like why I say
Bunch of memes.
yeah, why I go like why I do a bunch of weird stuff, because it makes me happy being the cringeworthy person in the group. That's what makes me proud. That's what makes me happy.
Okay.
What about you, Fardeen? Does being the smart boy in the group make you happy?
Man, I wish I was. I'm not smart.
Oof,
I mean, I'm just okay.
the
Yeah.
truth comes out.
Everyone says that. Oh no, there's just people that say they're dumb. Which
Yeah.
It's not that true.
Those are the only two kinds of people here at Coral. Understand that.
How do you party?
But this article, I mean, how it applies to me, I guess now that I know, like, that there's a set point to my happiness, I shouldn't expect it to be happy all the time if I can't be happy all the time. But I shouldn't be sad all the time either. So if I, like, go down, I should realize that, hey, just, it's just one of those days where I'm feeling sadder than usual. Or one day I just feel happier than usual, then just, like, appreciate the good things so you can, like, last longer.
Stay in the moment. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Don't dwell on the past. I mean, think about the past. Don't dwell
Yeah, dwell
on
on.
it.
Yeah.
Look forward to your future, but don't worry too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, just use the past to learn from your mistakes and see if you can like change from there, I guess. So, do you have any outside sources that you think could help elaborate on this topic? Like help connect it to your life or help answer a question that you have, a lingering question, one that's floating in space, an abstract concept of time.
Well, I kind of have one. It's on commonlit.org.
Okay.
If you can find it if you want.
Yeah.
It's called like the bright side of happiness, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. What's it about?
So, no, the bright side of sadness, sorry.
Okay.
But basically, it talks about like how being sad is not always bad, and there's some good things that come out of short-term sadness. So, like, for instance, you're less likely to judge people by like what they wear or their outside looks. It's called like the halo effect, when someone's wearing like good clothing, and you're like, wow, this person must be smart. But when you're sad, they've discovered that you're less likely to judge them for that. And also that you have like better memory and you're more critical of things.
So you're saying that sadness can bring us good in our lives, not just the bad.
Yeah, but like only a little bit.
Yeah, not too much
Yeah.
sadness, obviously. That's not good.
So like even in sadness you can get something good out of it.
Yeah, it says there's social benefits to being sad, and it says when a positive mood may increase self-focus and selfishness, a negative mood can increase concern for others and the quality of communication. So, like, if you're sad, you're probably gonna.
I guess like you want others to be happy when you're sad. You care more for others.
Yeah. So you're more empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But something that actually does make me question just what these keys of happiness apply to is that do they also apply to like the bad things that make you feel good? Like say it makes you feel good for getting away with stealing a soda, and that brings you happiness. Would that be good or bad that you're thriving off of that?
It's kind of like the rush of things, because
Adrenaline rush.
when people do bad things, they usually have an adrenaline rush when they do it, and that's like I don't think that happiness is really good for you. Like you can get addicting.
Yeah. And plus like imagine if everyone was doing that in society. Because like that's just one way to determine like if the action you're doing is good or not. If everyone was stealing, how would you be in that society? You're probably like a very degraded and bad society. No one would like that. So it's not a good form of happiness.
But you'd be the top dog.
Well, yes,
Dog.
it's not good. It's still not good to steal.
Yeah.
I'm just getting this question from an article that I read recently called "Is There a Cheater's High?" which discusses that if you get away with something like cheating, it can like influence you to do it again sometime in the future.
Oh yeah.
So it's like doing bad things. So like
Yeah.
alcohol addiction, smoking, stuff like that.
It doesn't necessarily
Well,
go
yeah,
into like
yeah,
that,
I know.
but like cheating.
Like if you do it once, you're likely to do it again.
Yeah, because you got away with it. It makes you think that I can get away with it again, and
It's
that
kinda
makes
like
me happy.
Kind of reminds me of a friend I have who stole some like sodas from a teacher, and then he did it again next year.
Oh man. Yeah. So like that. I mean, that can bring you a surge, like just a little bit of
Yeah.
happiness. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I can see where this guy is coming
I
from.
don't
I mean,
know.
like, he got an adrenaline rush, you know?
Yeah.
He's got to respect that rush. I have respect for him. He sounds like a good man.
I don't know about that one.
That's questionable.
What about you, Ariel? Do you have any other outside sources?
To be honest, no, I don't. But thinking about happiness, it kind of makes you wonder about why, like, why we get happy and why people like to degrade others for being happy. Cause like, I'm trying to think of an example for this. Like people, some people are just constantly sad and
they bully others
they
just
bully others
because they're
they're
happy.
happy. I mean, like, I find
Maybe
that kind of
they're-
surprising.
Maybe they're just bullying others because they're happy and they're like, how can you be happy when I can't? I just want to be happy too. And they have to take out that anger on someone else.
Yeah, there was an experiment on this. Basically, sad people, when they're around other sad people, then they kind of feel a bit better. But when they're around like happy people and everyone's happier than them, then they actually feel worse. Because I guess they like start comparing it to themselves. Like, why can't I be happy like them?
They're
Yeah.
empathetic towards
Mhm.
each other.
And then like some people, they transform that sadness into anger, which is why bullying exists. I
And
guess.
bullying.
Yeah.
And I guess that could also be used to explain why young teens, young adolescents tend to rebel against like their parents or those who know better than them. Because like at the moment they don't know who's right or wrong. They think that they're right, and that makes them happy. But then what really should make them happy is what their parents say. What really is best for them.
So, to wrap it all up,
What are your final thoughts
Yeah,
on this entire this little communion, we'll call it?
Oh, this discussion you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Communion
I
is
don't understand the
religious.
communion. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see like each other's thoughts and ideas on this article.
and sharing personal experiences can help us learn more about each other and learn what makes other people happy and what people like, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and also learning about happiness as a whole can better a person because they'll learn why they're happy, why some people aren't happy, what affects happiness, stuff like that. That can be brought into like a person's life, and they can tell others about it. They can spread it, so have an impact.
All right. To end this off, let's have our own communion.
And communion.
A communion is a religious thing
Yes,
where we
yes,
eat the.
yes, I know.
Okay. Well, a communion is a religious thing where we eat the body of Christ and drink His blood.
Can we cut this from the video?
Yes, we're going to cut this. I just want to say this.
I think we're done.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Goodness.